What's up, Cats fans? Paul here from the Hoops crew to react to our round 15 loss to the Carlton Football Club. It's pretty dire where things are at the moment. We're on a 1-7 streak in the last 2 months. It's getting pretty ugly at the moment. And if I bring up the scores, let's kind of start there, and we'll work from that point. Feeling a little bit flat this morning for a host of different reasons. But we went down 21-12, 138 to 11-9, 75. And I want to begin because I see this dialogue, and I've spoken about it a little bit in past match reactions as well, where I think the main source of frustration for me in some games has been this lapse for chunks of a game. Maybe, whether it's against the Swans and there's 15 minutes, like a powerful 15 minutes where we just get blown away and that's it, the game's over, or Port Adelaide, or similar sort of things where we just give away an absurd number of goals without even being able to get our hands on the ball. And tonight, I guess I wanted to kind of begin, and I'll go to the worm. I wanted to begin by kind of focusing on the fact that for the most part, that didn't really happen. Of course, you can see, that Carlton got runs of goals, but they're not this blistering surge of explosive power. They were consistent. And the reality is that what we saw last night, and I record this the morning after, and we kind of saw a similar thing with a few goals puncturing it along the way from Geelong in the final term as well. What we saw last night was a team that's just not up to it. We're not of the caliber of the Carlton Football Club right now as a playing outfit. I think culturally and all those sorts of things, I think we do a lot of things better. But this is a team that I think, and I've been really trying to avoid this, but has kind of come to the end. And there's some sad notes from the game last night that I think highlight that even further. But even as a club, we're just at a different developmental point now to Carlton. Carlton are right in the window. I think at this point it's fair to say, and of course there's lots of things that can and can't go wrong, and Carlton had a little scare last night when Charlie was on the bench getting a bit of work in and around his knee, but everything was fine. Lots of things can change, but right now it feels like it's Sydney and Carlton, a mile in front of everyone else, barring bad days and that sort of thing. Geelong, if we kind of talk about the premiership clock, they're back down to like 6 o'clock. We've started to rebuild, and let's please not lose sight of the fact, and I tweeted this out last night, that the green shoots are starting to show. We are seeing in our VFL team right now, there is a lot of depth coming through underneath. Whether it's Lawson Humphries, whether it's Mitch Hardy, we're seeing a lot of young players, young or inexperienced players, really delivering in the seconds. And those guys are going to be getting games over the course of the next, remaining rounds this season and going into next year. Because some of these older players, I really don't like doing this, but the time has kind of arrived. Let's get into some of the stats before we hone in on some of the stories. And one of them is right here. Actually, sorry, team stats. Start with team stats. Very similar to the game against Carlton earlier in the season. They got their hands on the ball more. Every statistical measure's in their favour there. Disposal efficiency is better. Inside 50s, they've got us covered. Efficiency inside 50. We won a free kick count. We won a free kick count. I can't believe it. But again, the killer, stoppages and clearances, just where we continually get beaten week after week after week. We know this is an issue. It's not being publicly acknowledged by the club, but we know that the midfield is an issue right now. And we definitely need to go to the well to try and top up. And I think the club acknowledges it. They just don't want to acknowledge it publicly. Because, of course, by doing that, you're kind of insulting those who are there. And the club is built on respect for one another. And so I don't really see that changing. They'll acknowledge that maybe it's a weakness and they need to refine the game. They're not going to talk about the fact that we need to go get players. Something they will absolutely be looking to go and do. Again, continues into the possession. Everything kind of stacks up Carlton's favour, right down to the fact that we had more turnovers than them. We didn't have lapses. I genuinely stand by the fact that we didn't have any lapses last night. We just got outclassed by a team that is developmentally much better than us right now. The end has come for some of our senior players, and some of those younger blokes who are getting a game for us need time. The Jai Clarks, the Ollie Dempseys, those sorts of guys, they need time to develop their craft still. And that is totally fine. And that's going to be the case also for some of these guys who are doing an amazing job in the VFL right now that will make that step up to the AFL again in the coming weeks or next year. They might get beaten up a little bit as well. And people will start to question, oh, hang on, are they really up to it? Yes, they're up to it. They just need the time to develop the bodies, develop the speed of the game, all of those sorts of things. The caliber of player explodes once you make it to the AFL. It's a big challenge, and it's going to take some time. Our older blokes are struggling to keep up with it. Our younger blokes aren't quite yet ready for it consistently. It also hurts when we have the likes of Tanner Bruin and those sorts of guys out, and Cam Guthrie out as well. And then, all other statistical measures really just favoured Carlton 1%ers. It was nice to see that we got the job done there, but when you're chasing tail most of the day, it's not uncommon to see 1%ers kind of slide that way. It doesn't paint a rosy picture, but again, I think we played a pretty solid full match. We just aren't to the standard of Carlton right now, and I think we need to be careful about the way we're criticising the players at the moment. Because it's developmentally, we're at a different stage to them. We're at a different stage to Sydney. We're at a different stage to Port Adelaide. We're Collingwood. I'm remiss to say Essendon because we'll play them next week, and there's an air of confidence with me still. I still don't rate the Bombers, but this could come back to bite me next week. So we'll see what happens there. We're just at a developmentally different stage, and so these things happen, where you can play a pretty solid performance according to what the coaches are looking for, but you're just not up to it. All right. Players. We'll ignore Carlton. When Ollie Dempsey, as your half-forward flanker-ish, is your leading disposal getter, we've got problems. We just can't get our hands on the ball. Where are our midfield? Like Max Holmes is one of them. And but he, with 24 disposals and a goal, he should really be maybe second or third best midfielder for the day, or certainly second or third most greatest accumulator. But then we look down the list. Jai Clark put in a pretty solid game, 20 disposals there, 5 clearances. That's what I'm stoked to see that. They're signs. They're really positive signs. Sam DeConing got a lot of it because he played in the ruck. Danger, working his way back into it. Also only played 70% game time. That's not that bad for him. Blicavs started to get his hands on the ball again. We were talking about this in the last couple of weeks. He needs to find it. There were signs there. Tommy Atkins just can't get his hands on the ball. Jack Bowes. Why do we not throw Jack Bowes in the midfield permanently? Because every time he gets there, he's class around the ball. He's clean. He disposes well. His defensive pressure is good. Please, just put him in the midfield more. But the things that are concerns for me, Oshim Mullen is just struggling to get his hands on the ball at the moment. And of course, he's young. He's from Ireland. There's a lot of development still ahead of him, and I think he could be a very, very, very good player for the Cats. Still not quite there developmentally, and I'd argue that there's some others that perhaps in the seconds should be getting a game ahead of him right now. I feel like I'm bashing the Irish here. Mark O'Connor, really struggling. Really, really. It took some great contested marks over the course of the night, some great defensive marks. But of course, when the ball's being bombed down there as often as it was, you're going to get a couple of them. But he's just totally lacking in impact. Doesn't push the ball forward. He's not helping to make Geelong an aggressive outfit. He's a bit of a pushover in a way. And I don't mean that like you're weak kind of way, but he's just not offering a lot. You can kind of just send him off to the side and largely ignore. Zach Tui gave it his all, did a solid job. I may as well just kind of put a bow on the Irish component there. Collar was solid, but definitely had the work against him when he was dealing with Charlie. We just don't have enough of those tall defenders, and with Sam DeConing having to go into the ruck to support the fact that we don't have Reece Stanley in any sort of form, and Toby Conway just needs time. We were exposed for a lack of height as well when you're dealing with the two best key forwards in the competition right now. It's a challenge. Ollie Henry's badly out of form as well, and I think there's conversations potentially need to be had there about his form, what he needs to do to kind of find himself back in a good place. But Jeremy Cameron, it was brilliant to see. He loves the game against Carlton, does Jeremy Cameron. But it was good to see him playing deeper forward and getting his hands on the ball. 3 goals, 3. I mean, if that was 5 goals, 5 goals, 1, we might have been more in with a sniff throughout the course of the game, but it's certainly not his fault that we lost. Very valuable contributor all day. We were just outclassed. It's as simple as that. We were just outclassed. And the saddest story of this entire match is this bottom row here, Tom Hawkins. That might well have been the very last time that we ever saw Tom Hawkins on the AFL field. He went down, went to take off, and couldn't put it straight through his foot. Chris Scott's already saying in the post-match that it's not bad, but it's not good either. We don't, there's a lot of research the club still needs to do. They probably need to do some scans, work it out. Tom's obviously got a history with foot injuries. And at round 15, there's a serious chance that we may never see Tom Hawkins play AFL ever again. And that would be an awful, awful way for his career to go out. After everything he's done, to have a goalless game against Jacob Weitering, great opponent. Has had his measure for quite a few years now, actually. But to go down with an injury, a potentially career-ending injury in your final game, goalless up to that point, would be an awful outcome. Now, I know Tom hasn't been firing on all cylinders this year and has definitely had his struggles, and I think the writing was maybe on the wall to a degree. But at least he could have played it out on his own terms. To go down like this would be really, really disappointing. So, Tom, we're all thinking of you. Hopefully, the scans that come out are not as bad as it seems, and that you'll get a chance to at least come back before the end of the season and hopefully play at least one final game if that ends up being the case. I don't want to write you off, but it feels like it might be time. And to go out like that would be incredibly sad. Finally, I guess before we wrap up, all credit to Carlton. You're an incredible team at the moment. You're playing wonderful, wonderful football, and I sincerely hope, as someone like we saw the teams that we love to hate sort of come out over the course of the week. Thanks to the back pocket guys who put that together. It was a really fascinating insight into what opposition are thinking of each other, and the fact that Geelong's equal like 4th ranked most hated overall was a bit disappointing. But I've got no problems with Carlton. I've got some problems with the carry-on of some supporters, and I've seen that even within Carlton circles. It's a bit disappointing, but I think that goes on everywhere, so let's not get too carried away there. As a football club, I wish them nothing but the best. Now, my mum supports Carlton, so I kind of have a little bit of investment in wanting them to be successful. I think this could be the year. I know they played Sydney recently and things didn't work out for them, but I think they're going to be better for that. They'll, if they rematch again later in the season, it's likely to be at the MCG, and that's a huge opportunity for them. So good luck, Carlton. Hopefully the season ends well for you. Geelong, let's just hope that we can kind of rediscover some form, rediscover some touch, get some games into the Mitch Hardys, the Lawson Humphreys, the Shannon Neils, the Toby Conways, all of those sorts of guys who are absolutely doing a great job in the seconds and deserve these opportunities, or are absolutely ready to go and just need the opportunity. Hopefully that all works out for us, that we can get some wins and end the season on a high as my dogs go nuts outside. For now, thanks a lot for watching, Cats fans. Follow us on the Hoops Crew. Follow us on, find our Patreon where you can get early access to a whole bunch of stuff. You can sign up for 1 week of free access and check out all the things that we do, including the Scratching Post, a new show it's a new daily show that'll be exclusive to patrons. There's a little sample on the YouTube channel right now, but you can check it out and see what it's about. Remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.